Okay, so let's see how does Budibase work and what are the best features it has and how does it work. It's the first time actually I'm using it on a virtual private server here on my account. The server is quite small. It's only 1 GB memory and 25 gigabytes of disk. So it's very basic server, yet it seems to be working fine. We will find out later on the video. At least for one user, probably it's a very simple basic setup, but it seems to be working. So let's continue here. So the first time you run it, will ask you for your email and a password. Okay, let's create the user. This is the administrator user. Once again, now let's do the login. So the first thing is it's going to ask for creating your first application. So yeah, it's okay. Let's do it with the default settings. So let's give it some Budibase sample data. So it has a small walkthrough of the three main tabs here, the data tab, the design tab, the automate tab. And okay, let's continue and let's continue. So Budibase clearly is a no-code database because it has the data tab where you have access to your data sources and your tables on those data sources, or create a new source, create new tables, create views, etc. So it has already the support for managing data and storing data and retrieving data from existing sources. Also, on the design tab, this is where you actually create the applications. This is the application builder part of the system of Budibase. And on automate, this third tab is where you actually create flows or schedule automation or automated tasks that you need to be done depending on a trigger. I haven't tried actually, so probably and the most logical thing is that it has to use a trigger or it has to use a webhook or something to actually call these types of. So let's start with data. Okay, since I started with this sample Budibase data, it's a table of employees, expenses, inventory, and jobs. So pretty common tables in business for sure. Let's first see what can you do. Okay, so let's click on add source. You can create a non-relational Budibase database. Okay, you can connect to a REST API. That's interesting. Different external data sources, SQL Server, MySQL, Oracle, Postgres, Snowflake. I haven't used Snowflake. ArangoDB, CouchDB, DynamoDB, Elasticsearch, interesting. Firestore, okay. MongoDB, Redis, Amazon S3, Airtable. Actually, you can connect to Airtable as far as it seems here, and Google Sheets. So yeah, it has a nice set of external data sources. Let's try with the Budibase and click on continue to see what happens. So you create a source and that will create a table if you select the Budibase. Okay, Budibase test, automatic columns. Okay, you can start with some example data from a CSV or a JSON file. Okay, that's pretty useful. So let's create this empty table. You can create columns and the types. Those are very important. You have text, barcode, QR, long form text, options, multi-select. Okay, relationship. Okay, so from my understanding right now, the most common ones, text, options, multi-select, number, and Boolean, they seem pretty useful and pretty standard, right? So the ones that I want to learn about actually are probably relationship, formula, and let's see, options and multi-select. I want to understand if they are only okay, there are only local options, like let's say, let's create a column that says favorite color. And you can have red, blue, yellow, white, black. So pretty easy to define the options. And actually it's pretty straightforward. So let's save that column. So I created my column called favorite color. Let's create another column with another type that was options. Let's try multi-select. Again, you have local options. So let's say car brands. Let's call it car brands. And let's start writing here Toyota, Volkswagen. I can add more options, but I can select multiple of them. Okay. Pretty straightforward. Let's create another column. And let's choose one of the more advanced ones, relationship. I really want to understand what is this relationship. Okay, I can join with users table, and I have Budibase test and users as Budibase DB. What if I want to move this around? Is this even possible? No, I can only delete it. In sample data, I can create a new table here. Interesting. So in every source, you can have several tables, and only you can link. Yeah, you can link when you create a column. You can link when you use relationship. You can only use tables that are from the same source. So yeah, I have the only options here: users. And let's select one user to many test rows. Okay, so let's call it here like the user. Let's save this column. And let's try it out. Let's create a row. Favorite color, let's say blue, and car brands, Toyota, Mitsubishi, and Volkswagen. And on selected user, there's only one user. I can create the row. Okay, pretty straightforward, simple. Let's create a new column here. And I saw another one, formula. I want to see what is. Okay, you have different types of formulas. Dynamic formula calculated when retrieved, but cannot be filtered, sorted. Static formula are calculated when the row is saved. Okay, so dynamic. And let's see, here we have helpers, user relationships, updated by relationships, created by relationships, buried paste fields. Okay, you can use handlebars or JavaScript. That's pretty interesting and probably pretty powerful. So yeah, let's say I want to add the car brands. What can you do with that? Let's confirm this. Let's right-hit formula test. I don't know. Let's see what does. I have no idea. So, okay, this formula, when evaluated, it replaces, okay, now I do understand it better. Let's see if I can edit. Yeah, it will replace, since I'm using handlebars, it will replace any of my available data fields here that I can use. And let's say I want to do absolute number. Okay, I have several functions here that I can use in handlebars. Okay, what if I do JavaScript? Let's see the same thing, car brands. Okay, very similar, but instead of using the handlebars notation, you use this type of expression to output something. Yeah, it's like a one-liner function. That's what it seems like. Also, handlebars is like a template. So yeah, it seems to be straightforward. So okay, that's a basic test of the data part. Let's create a view around the data. Let's call it a test view. And in this view, what I want to do is select this. Okay. Wait a second. What is this? This is a view for this data. And it's basically a way to share. Okay. Yeah. This is a way to share the data you're actually seeing, to do some basic calculations like the count of car brands. And you have a group by now. And yeah, it's like doing reporting on your data. So let's, for example, on employees, create a view here. Let's see, employee count. And let's do this filter. It wasn't filter, it was a calculate. I want to know how many employees there are. So let's count by the employee ID. So there are 10 employees, okay? And let's do another group by option. Let's group them by city. So we can actually see how many employees there are per city. There is one employee per city. Let's just change that to, let's see, employee level. Maybe there is something different there that we can, okay, great. So we have 3 apprentices, 1 contractor, 1 junior, 1 manager, 3 seniors, and 1 senior manager. So yeah, it's the views seem to be very helpful. Share data or share information here. What can filters do? Filters can, let's say, let me choose, which one was car brands, I think. Yeah, you can do on contains, favorite color. Okay. Yeah, you can do the typical operations in filtering: equals, not equals, more than, or equal to, less than, or equal to, is empty, is not empty, is in, and value. Okay. Okay. Yeah, seems to be pretty straightforward, actually pretty useful. Now let's go to design. Last time I seemed like it was still loading here. I don't know. Let's see, there is this home screen. Let's add a component, let's add a container. Okay, so now it's showing up. Probably, okay, I have a container. Actually, I remember on cloud, I actually added one container that was data provider, that it was not that intuitive, or at least not in my experience. And that this data provider helps you retrieve data. So then you can add another component inside data provider, for example, a table. And this table, for example, this one, it's for new data provider, right? So in the new data provider, you can select which table you want to use, let's say Budibase test, and it suddenly changes what you're seeing. And you can actually say use paging, I guess that's the right way to say it. Filtering, you can change the filters here, the sort column, the order, and the limits of the items you can see here. You can change margins to display differently. Okay, so it's basically just a way to view your data in a table. And you have other options like, let's see, add a component here, dynamic filter and date range. Okay, dynamic filter does actually help. Okay, it gives the option to the user to create its own filter. So yeah, it's a button where he can further filter the information that is on the same data provider. Okay, okay, interesting. So let's add a new component, the repeater. Actually, the repeater, I didn't quite understand it last time I used it, because you can see I'm using the same data provider, but I don't see anything in a repeater. Maybe I'm using it wrong, I don't know. But yeah, I don't know what this a repeater does. Let's add a new component, date range. Okay, so yeah, it's like filter, but just for dates and based on a specific field, like let's say created at, and you can then filter by date on the created at filter. So yeah, pretty useful for doing reporting and dynamic reporting. Then you have all of these things that are basically static content, except for embed, that actually helps you or allows you to embed some code or some website. I don't know. Let's see what this embed does. What type of embed? Okay, here, if we do this. Oh, okay. Okay, you can do handlebars, device. Okay, if it's actually a tablet or a mobile. So it has several functions here that you can actually use to display something on the embed. It seems to be like a code editor somehow. I'm not sure. Yeah, that seems to be the case. Okay, so let's delete the embed. Delete component. Let's add a new one. Embed icon link image markdown viewer, background image, embedded map, form. Okay, let's do a form. Let's see what can you do with a form. New form, type create, schema custom. Now let's do it on the users. Probably it will allow me to create new users, right? Nothing seems to be happening there. Okay, so let's delete it. Okay, so add a new component. Form step. Okay, you can have multiple steps as it seems. Field group. Oh, okay, so probably you can have a form and have different fields here. Okay, relationship picker, that's interesting. File upload, okay. Barcode and QR scanner, okay. Charts. Okay, so this seems to have a very complex components and blocks for the design of the application. So it seems to be a lot of data driven, like based upon data providers and showing that type of interaction between the data and what we're actually seeing. So yeah, it seems to be that kind of builder, a lot of interaction with data, of course, because you're doing a no-code application with no-code database. So yeah, it makes sense, right? It seems to be a little bit complex. If it's the first time you use it, because if you don't know what all of these options are for creating a form, then yeah, you won't be able to use it. But it seems to be working fine, and it's quite interesting since it seems to have many features, right? I don't know how to use many of them, but it seems to have several features that can allow you to make more complex applications. So let's go to automate the last tab and create an automation. Okay, you must publish your app to activate your automations. To test your automation before publishing, you can use the run test functionality on the next screen. Okay, let's call automation 1. So yeah, as I thought, it has triggers to trigger this automation. It could be a webhook, could be a change in the data, like update, a creation, or a deletion, or it could be an app action. Okay, let's do app action. Okay, these are the roles for this trigger. Let's add a field of one, and okay, it's a text. And when you do that action, you can call any of these 4 apps: Integromat, Zapier, Discord, and Slack. Or you can send an email. Okay, I have to set up SMTP. That's probably why it's grayed out. I can update a row, execute some script, do something with an external data connector, delay, bash scripting. That's interesting. And a condition. That seems to be all the options I have right now. So let's try JS scripting. Let's edit the code. Bindings. Okay, so yeah, it seems to be something I don't know, but probably you can write code here to do whatever you want to do once this trigger happens, right? So from the instructions, if you click on here, run test, it will actually run this. So let's try something that's complex than a script. Let's create a row. Of course, it's going to ask me which table am I going to create a row. Let's do it on the Budibase test. And let's choose here the favorite color black, car, Tesla, and Audi. And the selected user, I'm going to use this user. And let's finish it and this automation. Okay, so it asks me, for, and since okay, so let's go back one step. Since in the trigger, I asked for field 1. If I finish in test automation, it asks me for that field 1. Ah, interesting. So let's say it's F1 test, and it actually does both steps. And it says success, it created a row. Interesting. So now from my understanding is, since I have done this in app action, I can go back into design and find where those actions are. I don't know where they are, but let's wait a minute here until it appears on screen. I think maybe it's here, up here, in this small menu here. No. Let's wait until I can actually interact with this. What are these? Navigation, configure link, theme, components, screens. Yeah, I don't know where those actions are. Maybe on the component, there is something called an action or something. Or I'm missing something, probably. That's probably the case. But anyway, so yeah, this is like the first overall overview of Budibase. So yeah, I have this unpublished app, a version of Budibase 236. Access, I have no users accessing this besides me. Automation history, there is no history because there's nothing going on automation besides the test I did. Backups, okay, it seems to be something for the cloud version, right? So you need a pro plan. And the name and the URL, which I guess you can change. Yeah, you can change the URL and the name and the icon, okay. And the version is 236, okay, yeah. Yeah, okay, so let's see what else can we find here. Users, I can add users and groups. Okay, yeah, I can't add groups here because I don't have a pro plan since I'm self-hosting this. Plugins, let's see, plugins, I have GitHub, okay, URL and token. Okay, so probably this is some specific plugins for Budibase where you can actually add them from GitHub or NPM or a file upload. That sounds interesting. The settings, okay, here is where you can set up the SMTP so that Budibase can actually send emails. Authentication, you can have Google, OpenID, and scopes that will take effect on the next login. Okay, I don't know what's that. Organization, I think that's misspelled or something, or maybe I'm wrong. Edit and manage all of your organization settings. Here's Budibase, the organization, and I can change the logo and the URL. Since I am doing this behind an Nginx proxy, so I have this URL that is different from the real URL, right? And analytics to activate and deactivate it. Check out environment. Okay, that's something for the business plan, and the version, yeah, it's the latest version of Budibase. Finally, the account option. Yeah, I can see I have unlimited apps since I'm self-hosting it, unlimited automations, only 10 plugins. Rows, I have 2 of unlimited, and day passes 1 of unlimited. I don't know what day passes are, but probably makes more sense on the cloud. And upgrade, yeah, I can use a license key to upgrade my Budibase account. Yeah, okay. So basically that's it for the overview of Budibase. From my perspective, it seems to be pretty powerful, but you need to read the manual. So RTFM, yeah, read the manual. You need to read the documentation for actually having the best experience with all the data types, the relationships, the data sources, and mostly on the design and automate steps of your application. That's where the most of the powerful features lie. And that's where you need to be more aware of how to actually use them. So that's it for Budibase. And if you want to see any other reviews of this open source no-code tools, I'm actually uploading soon one of NoCode DB and probably others more in the future. So that's it for today. Thank you.